Hi guys, welcome to the first of what will be a series of battles that my gaming group and I are going to fight, based around the bolt action rules. Basically we've decided to wargame an invasion of Lithuania, so one team of players is going to be playing as the Germans, the other one's going to be playing as the Russians, who are obviously defending. And this is the first battle map. It's our representation of the town of Kalvarija, which is Kalvarija. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but it's a town in southern Lithuania, which will be the first part of the or first target of the German offensive for the campaign. So the Germans will need to secure the town, push out the Soviets as part of a bigger envelopment. So hopefully they can, or hopefully for the Germans, they can secure the town, push the Russians out, and then move further north onto the towns along the road there, securing the route to the larger cities of Kaunas and Vilnius, which are key targets of the campaign. This will be a first series of games. I do apologise in advance for any issues with the quality of the scenery. I am working on painting a lot of new models for this campaign, so it's been a bit of a challenge fitting it in with work. But I am getting there, so my apologies for the unpainted houses. But we are getting there. I want it to be a really interesting series for you guys, so if there are any suggestions, especially painting suggestions about paint schemes, please do mention them in the comments. So this will be the first game. As I said, Germans need to secure the town in order to win the round and move further north. The map, you can follow it in Google Maps. That's what we're actually using to run our campaign. But I just thought I'd show you guys the table before we started. So on to turn one. You can see that there's been some initial German scouting attempts at the town that have not gone so well. You can see one of the German 8-rad recce vehicles has gone up in a pillar of smoke, blown up by possibly some sort of Russian aircraft or hidden anti-tank gun somewhere in the town. You can also see a staff car that's also come off second best. You can see the Russian Air Force has been quite active in the area. A German flak gun further back has been hit, and there's a bit of smoke. So the Germans will have to be careful when they move into the town. The Russians are pretty well entrenched, and it's difficult to know what to expect when they get in there. So that takes me into turn one. I hope you enjoy the match. Thanks, guys. Okay, so the German bombardments come in. It's hit the Russians pretty hard. No real losses, but the unit's fairly heavily pinned, as you can see here. The armoured car's got 3 pins, NKVD's got 2. The Russians in the town have got 1 pin each, and the NKVD survived the bombardment but has 2 pins. And that's the end of the preliminary bombardment. The Germans will be arriving from the other side of the table. Alright, so the Russians have moved up. You can see the NKVD troops on the far right have pushed forward. We've rallied the troops in the centre, so they've passed their tests. Brought up another squad of veterans in the middle. We've rallied the squads there after the original bombardment. The armoured car is still down, and a KV-1 tank has arrived, and that's taken a shot at the German tank over there, which has arrived as well and missed. German tank, when it arrived, didn't have anything to shoot at, so it's just there. Probably not the best angling on my part because the sidearm is facing the KV, but it's alright. It'll move up this turn, hopefully. In the centre, Germans have advanced. The Kubelwagen and the truck have moved up to take the barn. They're sort of looking at getting through to the side of the map, encircling the town so they can push further north. And same thing with the armoured car and also the truck on that side. So they're moving up behind the flaming ruin of the previous German attack, and they're hoping that we'll have more success. And that's the end of the first turn. Thanks, guys.
Oh, that's huge as well. That's great.
Alright, so it's the end of turn 2. So the KV-1 has fired a shot. It's taken out the Panzer IV as you saw before. Battle in the center. The Germans have pushed up. Armoured vehicles going up the middle of the map. Hanomag, far left, 2 trucks, and the Cooper wagon. The Russians have responded, opening fire. The Cooper wagon is blown up. They were not able to destroy the trucks. There was a fight on the far corner between the German pioneers and the Russian NKVD. The NKVD have largely been wiped out, but they were able to do a countercharge, and they've killed off 2 of the pioneers, but it's looking pretty good for the Germans on the left. The centre, however, is a bit more problematic. Lots of fire from the houses along the line, NKVD moving up. The Russian armoured car has passed its morale check, so it's going to be heading probably into the centre of the map. And that's more or less the end of turn 2. I'll just pan across. Let's see. So yeah, so far so good for the Russians, but we'll see what the next turn brings. See if the Germans can get any more units off the table. Alright guys, so we've resolved, there were 2 airstrikes, I forgot to mention in the last update, that have rolled in on the map. Basically it was kind of funny, we both rolled 1 for our airstrike, so that meant that we both got to choose which targets we got to pick for the airstrikes according to the bolt action rules. So with my airstrike, my opponent's decided to target my central truck, which he has destroyed. He's also killed 2 of my infantry inside of the truck. I rolled 6 was rolled, so that means that the officer actually went down for that middle squad, which you'll see in there. But fortunately, due to the German special rules where you can roll to see if you have a lieutenant, a new officer, I passed that roll, and from there got a new officer. So there's been a lot of pins that have gone down in the center. So I think the Russians probably have this now. I don't know if they'll have enough units that can get off the map and generate enough points for me. Unless I kill some of his units, but it's kind of iffy at the moment. Also, because I can't remember if I updated it last time, the Cuba wagon was destroyed along with the officer inside of it in the last turn by that Russian squad that you see there. So they missed the blitz truck that they were targeting. But because they had Panzerfaust, they managed to hit the Cuba wagon and blow it up along with the officer inside. So that's kind of annoying. I was kind of hoping that I could push through the center, maybe roll through the town and win the match by turn 3, but I think now it's pretty serious looking defeat for the the Germans. Alright, but we'll see what happens. Maybe I can pull it back. I think I've learnt some lessons about attacking the center of the map, even with vehicles. But we'll see how we go. Alrighty, see you at the end of the next turn. Alright, so just another update, guys. So we've fought out the 3rd turn, and basically about halfway through the turn we decided to call it. The reason for this is that we sort of figured out which units would escape and make it off the map and which ones wouldn't, roughly what the Russian kills would be, and it sort of reached a point in the battle where there was not so much left on the table that we could move, and I don't think it would be too much fun for you guys to watch, just sort of like 2-3 guys still stumbling around the map. Summary of the turn, basically what's happened is that the airstrikes have blown up the truck, as I mentioned before. The Germans inside of the truck, which is now gone, have bundled out of it. They've then been shot up by the infantry around the fringe, so those units. They attempted to move them into the Hanomag, but they failed their pinning test. And then from there, the assault engineers have moved across the woods into the town. And in that process, they actually did a lot of damage. They took out a lieutenant, and they took out the enemy infantry squad that was in there. So it's a bit of a close engagement. I lost a lot of the pioneers. I went in with about 8 of them, and after the Overwatch fire was resolved and the close combat was resolved, I only had 2 left. But those guys sort of saved it a little bit for me. it's given me a draw because I was able to destroy 3 units, and I was able to get 4 of my units off the table. Unfortunately, I'd suffered so many casualties in doing this that it was just too tricky for me to win. The final score was 12-11 in favour of the Russians, which, according to the victory conditions for the match, was a draw. We've decided that we're going to fight out a second match for the town. What this means is that it's, as far as the campaign's concerned, that's going to be fought in the evening of the same day. So it will still be turn 1 out of 30, but the match will be an evening match. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that one. I think I've learnt from a few of my mistakes in the match. I think attacking down the centre was not a particularly good idea. Even with the armoured vehicles and trucks, I was a bit too hopeful that I could just blitz through the buildings, but unfortunately the Russians have put paid to that. But the Germans have fought on. They've been able to capture the outskirts of the town, and they're holding on until the reinforcements can arrive later in the evening. Quick look over the battle so you can see the town. Again, burning wreckage out of fields. You can see the outer town that Germans advanced through initially. German flak vehicle, one of the advance guard, blown up before the German forces arrived. My tank, which has been destroyed by the Russian tank. And you can see the Russian battle line. The KV hasn't moved. It's more or less done its job by taking out the Panzer. Russian armoured car, we didn't really bother moving it. We just sort of decided that by the time this was over, there was only so much that could be done. So we decided to call it. So that's turn 3. Because it was such a short game in terms of the time, again, we're happy to say it's still the same day. So hopefully the next match can be a bit more decisive. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate your views. We'll try and get more sophisticated as we go along. If you have any suggestions about ways we could improve the map, there's a lot more that I want to do with painting all the buildings and making the trees look a bit nice. You can still see the PVA. But we'll fix that up in future videos. We'll make it look really nice. I want all these videos to look really, really good on YouTube. I don't want to do anything by halves. Also, if you have any suggestions about the colour schemes of what we've done, you can see if the Russians have gone for a winter theme. I'm sort of thinking almost of repainting that a little bit, just sort of having it a green coat, and then just doing a bit of shade of white over the top. I think it's probably a bit too much snow camouflage, same thing for that. But I don't know, I think it looks pretty good. At least I do, I'm maybe biased, I painted them. And same thing for the Germans. So if the Germans, I was reading that they used to have like a yellow colour scheme, and then from there the troops in the line would then paint over that yellow colour scheme whatever camouflage they wanted. In some cases they used a brown scheme as well. I believe it varied from theatre to theatre. I'm definitely not an expert on camouflage. If you do know more about sort of paint schemes that were used on the Eastern Front, please let us know. Try our best to paint the models up. Has been a bit of a rush assembling these armies. I've basically built, I've purchased, because Warlord Games has got, I have to say, pretty good deals on all of their stock. I went a bit nuts and I bought 7 armies, so I've had to try and paint it all up. The first 2 I've been able to finish have been the Germans and the Russians. I'm also working on British, I'm working on Japanese, I'm working on Americans, so it's a bit of a work in progress. So I hope you guys can be a bit patient with me as I try to catch up. Hopefully I can make this one of the better channels. But thanks again for viewing. I really appreciate you watching this match. Thanks. Also, I thought I just might mention in terms of the campaign. So we've attacked. It's based around an attack on a small village in the south of Lithuania. So, village of Kalvarija, I think it was. So, as I mentioned before, the attack's going to go on again later this evening. In terms of the game, so we'll fight another match. It's like late afternoon, evening. There'll probably be some night fighting rules that we attach to the game. So the Germans have really got to try and take this in the second attempt, otherwise it'll be too late the fighting will be over for the day, and it'll be turn 1 in the campaign. So if the Russians can storm me, that'll be really good result for them. That means that they're 1 turn down and only 29 more to go. So yeah. But thanks again for watching, guys. Cheers.